My name is Laekan Zea Kemp, and I'm a Chicana kidlit author living in Austin, Texas. And my debut novel, Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet, came out from Little Brown Young Readers on April 6th, so just a few weeks ago. It's a YA contemporary romance. It's told in dual point of view, so I've got a female protagonist and a male protagonist. And it's just a story about family, both blood ties, found families. It's about the power of food. It's about first love, using your passions and your talents to help your community. And that's really who is the star of this book, is the community that surrounds this restaurant where Penn and her family work together, and where Xander gets a new job, which is how their worlds sort of collide. One of the other elements of the book is the strained relationship between Penn and her father. Her parents have very specific expectations for her. They don't want her to have a, stressful, difficult job like they've always worked. They want her to go to college and get a degree and have a better life than they did. But she has different dreams, and she dreams of actually taking over the family restaurant because cooking and baking is her passion. So I'm going to be reading a short section of the book. Comes from chapter 2, when Penn is sitting in the parking lot outside of the school building where she's supposed to be taking college courses, and she's grappling with whether or not she can keep pretending to be the person her parents want her to be. So I'm going to read from Penn's point of view. The parking lot hasn't changed. The science building looks the same as it did that first day of school 5 months ago. But as I sit in my car, watching girls I met during orientation skip up the steps, excited to play nurse, I try to convince myself that something inside me has changed, that today I'll actually go inside, that today I'll stop lying and be the person they want me to be. Class starts in approximately 7 minutes. The class I should have taken and passed last semester, moving me one step closer to a degree in nursing. 6 minutes. I sit in the parking lot watching the clock tick down. The car is in park, but I can't bring myself to turn off the engine. What's the point? I turn off the car, reminding myself how much I've already spent on tuition and books. You're a failure, Penn. A liar, a waste. I reach for my bag, trying to stuff down the voice, begging myself to get out of the car. It's too late, it's too late, it's too late. And then I can't breathe. My mother's shoes. All I can think about are my mother's shoes. How they've sat in the same spot by the door for almost 20 years. Scuffed and cracked, the shadow of her foot pressed to the leather, even when the laces are loose. I imagine every hallway they've ever walked down, every mess they've ever stepped in, every second they've held her up when all she wanted was to collapse. Because one of her patients couldn't remember her face or their daughter's name or how to speak. When she lost one, I'd wake to the knock of the rolling pin and the smell of dough warming on the comal. Sometimes I tried to take the pin from her, but I think there was something about the rhythm that reminded her how to breathe. We'd work in silence. 3 dozen tortillas later, she'd wrap them in foil and drive them to the family that only visited once a month, that would accept my mother's food without acknowledging she was more family to the deceased than they were. And then the next day, she would go back to work. For almost 20 years, she went back. If I step out of this car, if I walk up those steps, if I sit at that desk and pretend, how long will I be sitting there before I realize I'm trapped? I stare down at my hands gripping the steering wheel, following where the sunlight lands against my forearms. I trace the lines, remembering all of the times I tried to cut through invisible blinds before. All of the times it only summoned new demons instead of snuffing out the old ones. I feel that familiar itch to climb out of my skin. Instead, I imagine myself in a cocoon, tugging it tight around me, trying to ground myself in the here and now. I list what I had for breakfast. I whisper the ingredients for my signature coconut cake. I take a deep breath, the sense of 1,000 shifts at the restaurant tucked into the fabric of the front seat. I start listing them too. mango and cilantro and epazote, tomatillos and roasted papitas and tortillas. The truth is, I can't sleep without those smells tangled in my hair. So I have to decide what's scarier, living a life that doesn't belong to me or losing the one I love. If the truth breaks my father's heart, I know he'll take it from me. But if it doesn't, if he understands, if I can make him understand, I can be free. I weigh each option, simmering in the anxiety they provoke, in the hope, because I have to do what scares me. Because somehow, stepping into my fears is the only remedy I've found to ward off that feeling of helplessness, to stay in control. I always have to be in control, which means that today is not the day I go inside. My stomach drops, my hand reaching to put the car in drive again. Today is the day I tell them the truth.
I love it.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Aren't we glad that, I mean, that we had you do a reading? Yes.
Yeah, thank you for suggesting that.
I'm so
I always
thankful.
forget that can be effective.
It was powerful. Wow.
Thank you.
I'm thrilled to hear it. So congratulations. You know,
Thank you.
this is wonderful. Does anybody have any questions? I'm blown away. Very nice.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So I'm part of the Tayshia's committee, and I just bought this book because I went to Barnes and Nobles like 2 weeks ago, and I'm loving it so far. So,
Oh, yay. You have it right there.
yeah. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I
So,
actually just went last week, or no, it was this week. Time is, I don't know, it's all over the place. But I went for the first time to a Barnes and Noble to see it in person, and that was really special because in my hometown, I'm from Lubbock and we don't have indie bookstores. Like we just have chains. So Barnes and Noble is where I always went to buy books. So it was really special for me to finally go into one and like see it in person there. It was really cool.
well, I'm from Corpus, so I'm over here in Robstown. I live in Robstown. I'm in a rural area. And I was telling the ladies about this in our committee. So I'm like telling them I'm definitely gonna nominate this for our list for Tayshia's.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes. And I love just all the food and the music that you put on there. It's just like, oh my gosh, I know like over down here there's taqueria, but then like I didn't know if the place that she's working right now, I'm not finished with yet, like if it's like a fast food restaurant, Mexican restaurant.
Oh, where she gets a new job?
Yes. So I was like, it's not the same.
Yeah. My partner, when we were teenagers, he worked in a restaurant, and then he also worked in a fast food place. And so I had stories from him from both. And so that's why they're kind of both in the story, to kind of show the difference between the two, because, they're different in so many ways.
Where'd you get your inspiration from? I just wanted to
It started with the restaurant setting. He just had the most hilarious stories of just like all the trouble that they would get into, because like there's a lot of young people who work in a restaurant. There's a lot of diversity too. Like there's a lot of diversity in terms of people's backgrounds and age, but there's a lot of young people. And so when you leave young people to their own devices and they're bored at work and they're trying to kill time, like they just came up with all of these games and these pranks and like these rituals and traditions that they would do. And I just thought it sounded like so much fun and like a great environment to explore relationships, because I'm a very like character driven storyteller. The characters are what I'm most interested in as opposed to like the plot. So I just thought it would be a great environment to, put people in and have them form friendships and relationships and get them into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, it just reminded me because when I was, I guess I could say when I was back in college, I would take my abuela to taquerias all the time, as I would take care of her and I was living with her, and I would just have that relationship with the employees, like at a taqueria, and they would tell me like what's going on. I'm like, oh, okay, so that just brought me back to like my past and everything. I'm really loving it so far.
Oh, thank you so much. And if you ever like read it with a group, read it with students or anybody, like I'm scheduling book club visits. It's because this is my debut and we're still in the middle of COVID. Like those are my only opportunities to really connect with people. So
Right.
like don't hesitate to reach out like via my contact form. It'll send it straight
Okay.
to my email. If you or anyone would like to organize something like that.
Yes, because I'm also part of the Team Book Fest committee in Corpus. So
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
going to tell it. We're already planning for in person for February next year. So I'm definitely going to tell them about this book too, because I mean we're in Corpus, and I know like I guess Selena and the Mexican restaurants here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
so
it's a
yeah,
unique thing to be like Chicano in Texas. So the
yes.
book has a very unique flavor.
Mhm. Yeah, especially because I know I'm in the rural part, like I'm on the west side of Corpus, but like Nueces, because I'm part of like Nueces County, so I'm part of the public system. So we're talking about like the agua dulce, petronila, banquete. Like I know there's still people out there in Orange Grove, and I want to bring them over here. This is where we're at, and I just like to tell them like there's books for us out here.
Oh, yeah, that would be
Yeah.
so great.
But yes, I'm really enjoying it so far, and I'm really going to tell the ladies on the committee and the book fest to tell them about this book.
Thank you. I would appreciate that so much.